What made you decide that you wanted to showcase a bit of your life on Summer House Martha's Vineyard?
Ooh, um, we had gone there the previous year with everybody, and to me, it was just an extension of everything that we were already doing. We were already moving as a group. The previous summer, we had done the bachelorette party, we had done Jasmine and Silas's wedding. So it was like we were moving in a unit for the last year or so before. So it was just an extension of that, really.
I love that you guys all have authentic, real relationships, not just for the show. I appreciate that. So, Preston, kind of same question for you. What made you decide you wanted to showcase this aspect of your life?
I think the same, honestly, but I think so the same, period. And I think part of it, I've been reflecting on this for a while, and so I don't want to veer too far left or right. But I will say that I think I oftentimes do reflect who I see being represented in a macro way. And I just don't think I've seen anyone like me. And so I think I really wanted to showcase just what it means to possibly be a possibility model for those who also have never seen someone who may look like them, um, being reflected right in their real life on full display. And to Jordan's point, though, right? Like we were, I'm a little tired of y'all at this point. Um, love y'all down, but I think also part of it was like we are already moving. Like we had just did the bachelor party, just went to the wedding. I was the groomsman of the wedding, and I'm like, if I spend another dollar with y'all and on y'all, I'm going to scream. But honestly, it was just an extension of who we already were. So why not?
Amazing. So let me roll it back a little bit. Jordan, tell me a little bit about yourself. You're a DJ, you're a foodie, which I love, nightlife enthusiast, and former Playboy bunny. So let's talk a little bit about all those things.
Yeah, I've always liked doing a lot of different things, but they are all rooted in entertaining people. My dad used to tell me I used to like be the funniest comedic little child and like just telling his friends jokes and doing antics. So I just feel like that's just an innate part of who I am. Um, and I also just love TV myself. So I'm like, how do I give this feeling to people? Whether it's through music, which is what I studied in school, is it through the art of photography? Like I just like giving people, just like giving, period.
So that's a beautiful thing. Great approach. Preston, same thing. You're a lawyer. Are you from DC?
No, but I've been here. I've been in DC for like 13 years, so it feels like it. But I always tell people this, like I'm an attorney, activist, and advocate, and I promise I'm not as boring as that sounds, right? And so I think,
In the first episode, both of you are highly entertaining. I would
yeah,
want to summer with you both. So
yes. I mean, but I think the same thing, I mean, the reality is I think growing up, I think like many black kids that when at least the ones that I remember hearing of, it's like very much be seen and not heard. And I remember always thinking about that and just how silenced I felt oftentimes. And so I'm like, when I talk a lot, it's because, I mean, you may want to blame my mama, honestly. Because, like, you should have stopped telling me to be quiet. But that's the reality of it, right? Like, I think so often, like, it's comfortable for me to say the thing in the room just because I do remember just how isolating it was, feeling silence all the time. But I think like also it's I want to showcase like this fun side, right? Like the creative side. The thing about the law is or it's not, right? Or at least that's how people perceive it. And that's not fun, right? It's not creative. It doesn't get to showcase who you actually are. And so, like, that is truly who I am. Like, yeah, all those things, but I'm also layered. I'm also multidimensional, right? And I think the ability to express that is something that many of us don't get to do in the legal field.
So, kind of on that note, you guys are gathering at Martha's Vineyard. We know that that is for a very long time been a hub of Black elite life, but it's not something that maybe a lot of viewers are familiar with. For example, I heard of it through the Inkwell, like in the 90s, that movie with Lorenz Tate and Jada Pinkett Smith. So, can you
Mm-hmm.
tell me about your familiarity with the area before you started vacationing there and just any thoughts or things that you learned through this process?
I actually had no idea the extensive history or Black history at all of Martha's Vineyard. I thought it was just another Hamptons and Nantucket, to be honest, just further away. So I had no clue. And like, I feel like I heard about the Obamas being there. I heard about a D Nice having a house there, you know what I mean? But it never clicked that it had such a historical presence for Black people.
Yeah, same. And I think I picked up the same thing from the Inkwell as well. I mean, the reality is, I think it's hard to know all of it because unless you live there, right? Unless you are really connected to that history of it. But I think that's what's so beautiful about, as we say, I think Martha's Vineyard was our 13th friend because, like itself, it's such an oasis unto itself, and I think it's a chance to like kind of have a secret be unlocked in a way. But I had no clue the richness of the Blackness there. And so obviously you will, see a little bit more about Inkwell Beach, right? You will hear a little bit more about like the Black folks who do own homes there, the history of home buying and home owning there. It opened my eyes a lot, and I think that's actually one of my favorite moments thinking about it now. It's like just being able to uncover things that I never knew about.
So that is amazing. I think I love that for us viewers. What I want to ask you though is, of course, everyone is tuning in to see what drama goes down, how this happens. So I'm going to start with you, Preston. You were in a relationship. So anything that happens, you're kind of observing because you have your own situation away from the group.
Mhm.
But to the point, without giving any spoilers away, and then we're going to swing it to Jordan. What do you think about single friends and married friends hanging out?
So I'll say this: straight people are ridiculous, and I love that, and I love my straight friends so much. But the things that I find people arguing about, I just kind of look like this can't be it. Like, I think it is perfectly fine, right? But I will say, I always do hear people critique. You know what? I'm just gonna say this: married people need to remember who they were when they were single sometimes. And I think many of them begin to act very differently when they do get married. So it's like, oh no, I would never go to the club tonight. I'm like, you were literally just twerking 1 year ago.
Right.
So
Approximately.
do not be brand new now. And so it's just really interesting, right? I also think there's this weird dynamic where some married folks believe suddenly their single folks are trying to keep them single, right? And I'm just like, no, like you may have to work out your insecurities on someone else, but don't project me continuing our friendship on me, right? Because that's who we were. Also, I do believe, yeah, there are sometimes straight, single folks, both. But there are some times that I do think single folks have to recognize, yes, like your married friends can't do maybe what they used to do. But I've rarely seen that be damaged in a way. I've mostly seen married folks when they become married change in a way that feels a little fake, I'll just say.
Okay. Jordan, what are your thoughts on that?
Ooh, I feel like I second everything you just said, to be honest, because it's true. It's there can be a little bit of absent-mindedness of the singleness that you once had prior to, having a ring on your finger that I feel like can get lost.
Mhm.
Um, and I also feel like more so on the positive side, it is an interesting thing because now if you're looking for a relationship or you're looking to take that next level with Preston and our thruple, Donald, if you're looking to take that the next level, there is that level of advice that you can give somebody. If I'm single and they're dating, like what do I need to be doing, if anything, differently or something like that. So it does give you a more rounded view
Right.
of relationships and dating versus marriage and long-term relationships. So I feel like, it's a little bit of a cycle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reality is, Jill, I have friends who are both married and single, right? And those dynamics just don't usually play out that way for our friend groups in that way. So it was interesting to see how it unfolds. I mean, I think the viewers will really get a very interesting perspective, and have a variety of opinions there.
So, in kind of going with that, you mentioned it a little bit about insecurities, Preston, that people
Mhm,
might be projecting onto things. Um, what are your thoughts on trust? Do you think that obviously you're on a vacation for 2 weeks, you didn't
mhm,
necessarily know who you would come in contact with, and you have to
mhm,
trust your significant other at home,
mhm,
and he has to trust you in this situation. Jordan,
mhm.
you know, maybe in the past, or I'm not sure what your status is now without giving anything away. So, what are your thoughts on trust in those type of situations? Because isn't it just an extension of trust?
I believe so. I mean, the quote I always go by is that relationships are built at the speed of trust, and that's friendship, like romantic relationships and partnerships. And so for me, everything will go back to trust, right? And people will reject that. They will say, "No, I do trust my partner," and I'm like, "You can't." And if you're telling yourself that that is your version of trust, I need a new version.
Mhm, mhm.
Jordan, you
Yeah,
agree?
I just feel like similar to me trusting the fact that Preston isn't talking smack behind my back, it's
Mhm,
you have to have an established boundary with any
Mhm.
relationship. So it absolutely begins and ends with trust. And it's also how you trust yourself and how you feel about yourself. You know,
mhm,
your partner is an extension of you and what you feel like you deserve and what you want and who they are. So I don't know. I feel like trust, yeah, it is the beginning of the end because you're still a
mhm.
person with or
Yeah,
without that person. Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm going to poll you both a bit, and I've had this conversation with both Bria and Jasmine, and so I might share some answers depending upon the comeback. Who is the biggest troublemaker this season on Summer House?
Huh. You know what? I'm gonna. That's a good question.
I love hearing that.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of what I would consider a troublemaker. Um,
Right, because it can be different things, right? It can just
yeah.
mildly annoying, it could be messy and getting things in the mix. It could be a lot of different things. So,
I'm gonna say Silas.
I actually was gonna say that too. I
Yeah.
was actually gonna say that too.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Silas, who is Jasmine's husband. Okay.
Mhm,
All
mhm.
right. So the next question is, who was the biggest flirt in the house?
Amir.
Amir. Yeah.
I mean, I would say Amir or myself, honestly, but Amir.
Interesting. Amir has been the choice across the board.
Yep. Yep.
And so this question, and again, this is you can bring in your own um, qualifications for this question, but who surprised you the most during the summer?
Alex.
Mm, who's a
Alex and Nick.
Alex and Nick.
Yeah, I would say Nick and Jasmine.
Okay. So you learned some different things about, because I'm sure with your previous trips, were you guys all staying in the same house? I'm sure that plays into a different dynamic, because it's one thing when you're meeting up with your friends on vacation, it's another thing when you're staying with them 24/7.
Yep.
Yeah.
That part.
Right.
So were you prepared for that experience? Did it kind of cross your mind that maybe, some of these things are going to change because I haven't lived with my friends in this manner?
Well, for me personally, I went to boarding school. So I feel like I did have a little bit of preparation for that in a different way. Just because, when you're learning how to have friendships and it's like the most hormonal time of your life, I was learning people while living with them, and away out of my comfort zone of my home. So I feel like I was definitely prepared in that way. Now, how that transpired, I was not prepared for it.
Mhm.
Okay.
You know, it probably doesn't seem like that big of a deal at first when I was thinking about it, but I'm really neat, and I think when you have certain dynamics, I'm like, if y'all don't wipe down this counter, Like, if y'all like keep your bed is your bed, right? That's I don't care about your bedroom. But there are certain dynamics around common spaces that I don't think bothers me as much as it did. I just don't think I yelled about it. But it's that. That's one of the things.
I know that would drive me up the wall. Um, so we know that being on Bravo carries a certain degree of status with it, and Bravo fans are very particular and passionate about their Bravo celebrities. What are you guys looking forward to from the fan reaction for the show?
I for me personally have such an interesting rhetoric, and I make my own words up and I say things in a certain way. And like, to me, I don't notice them, or my friends don't notice them, because everybody's so used to it. And even in the trailer, so many people were commenting things that I said, and I was like, oh, I guess that is interesting or like different. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what else they think is funny that I've said.
Preston.
Same. You know what? I mean, because I quote a lot of people from Housewives, like generally, and I think it's interesting when I think about that because I'm like, huh, I wonder who's gonna put my quote on a shirt, right?
Right. That part.
Already
You
plan-
know, say it again, Joe. I'm sorry.
I said already planning it out, getting it ready, the marketing strategy. So have you guys like cleaned up your Instagram? Have you made any changes? Like what it's a couple of days away. What are you feeling about being introduced to the world?
I definitely have gone through my socials. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But you know what? I do that too. Whenever like I see someone has followed me of significance, I'm like, let me just see what they see real quick. And let me just
Mhm.
type this
Let
up
me
right.
curate a little bit. Let me just
Well, it's like a
Yeah.
magazine. You wanna change the spread here and there. So definitely for me.
Yeah, no, same. It's funny enough. Earlier I was explaining how what I try to at least just break this mold of just being like this smart person, quote unquote. So one thing that I was doing that was really interesting and probably corny at the same time was like taking some of my tweets that I saw getting a lot of attention and posting it on Instagram, and I was like, but my Instagram is just now becoming my Twitter. So I just deleted all those just so I could have like me shown and me and my partner, my dog, shown a lot more. So I actually think now it's a lot more reflective of who I am as opposed to just like copy pasting Twitter to Instagram.
So I want to know, what are you guys doing for the launch on Sunday? Are you going to have a party? Are you going to get together? How are you going to watch episode 1?
So I was excited because I'm like, we actually, we're having a little turn up tonight. But Sunday, I'll be honest with you, I'm still not sure.
Me too. I'm not sure
Yeah,
either. I don't know if I want to be low key or high key.
same,
Yeah.
same. That's the part I'm wrestling with is like, do I actually want to be bothered with people? Even my friends who are probably going to ask me a bunch of questions the second it ends or interrupt my enjoyment watching it in real time. Like, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
So do you have a designated friend like, okay, I'm going to go check social media for you and tell you how they're responding? Or are you just like, we'll see how the vibe feels on Sunday?
The latter for me.
See how the
I
vibe.
just want. I mean, listen. I think my friends will check it regardless,
Yeah.
and they will defend where needed and not tell me about it.
Okay.
I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it. So I don't know. I guess it wouldn't be the first time that I've put myself out there. It's definitely in a different way. So I'm not even sure how different it'll be yet. So I might just go on there like normal, and haters gonna hate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they
Yeah.
might. So really quick, I want to run it back, Jasmine. I mean, Jordan, to your relationship with Jasmine. You guys met at the Playboy Club, so that's something that people don't really think about how exclusive that environment is and what it's like for Black bunnies in that environment. So could you talk a little bit about that? This was in the mid 2000s, yes, or a little later?
Yeah, this was about 6 years ago.
Okay.
So like 2017, 2018. And it was most of us. I met all the women except for Mariah in the house from some sort of extension through Playboy. So Bria, Jasmine, Shanice and I were all bunnies. Shanice and I were playmates after the fact. And so it is a very exclusive group of women that are selected to be bunnies. And we have extensive training where it was like, we can't even get in the suit until 2 weeks of training and notes and video and note taking. So it was an earned title for us. And I think people think it's, you know, just a normal cocktail waitress situation. It's like, no, we have to have our cocktail trays in a certain way. We have to pose in a certain way in pictures. Don't touch the bunny tail. So there are rules that we have to follow. So it is very elite.
So with that, I know that you said that you're, you know, kind of you enjoy things. Do you anticipate, or did you during your time there encounter anyone that had any feelings about Playboy? Because, you know, the feelings about what it represents and how it showcases women have changed over the years. So for you, as someone that experienced it up close, what was that like, and what are your thoughts on that?
You know, everybody's going to have an opinion regardless, especially over things that they don't understand. And so when you look at it through the lens of, oh, you just did this for the entertainment of men or this, that, or the third. And it's like, actually, I did this for me because I feel empowered, because I feel strong in how I'm presenting myself. I got to write my own article. I've written for them several times. I've DJ'd several events. So sure, you know, I'm exposed in that way, but I looked at it as a really empowering thing. And I think the messages that I got from other Black women that are like, I'm so proud to see you and I'm so happy to see you just like living in your power was everything. And so after that, ain't nobody can say nothing, but there was definitely some haters. There was definitely some haters. I was related to a few.
Oh, okay. There's always going to be a few. We need those. You know, we like that.
Listen, like my grandma used to tell me, opinions are like assholes. Everyone has them, and most of them stink.
So, Preston, I want to ask you a little bit about your work. You mentioned that you're an activist. What areas do you touch upon, and what is something, you know, obviously you're going on this, it's with your friends and you want to show a good time in different aspects of you, but I'm sure that aspect of your life is something that you'd like to share with viewers as well. So can you talk to me a little bit about that and what you hope that viewers take away from that part of your life?
Oh my goodness. So the issue, I mean, I care about a lot of issues, honestly, but if I had to really sum up the issues that I really care about, I mean, they cross like racial justice, gender justice, and LGBTQ justice. Like I really, really, really care about issues related to police violence and brutality. I really care a lot about access to abortion, a lot, and issues related to sexuality education. And so, and also just like safe spaces, you know, if you do some additional digging, you'll see a couple years ago, you know, myself and others were able to shut down a gay bar for dragging a Black woman down the stairs by her hair. And so the next day, you know, I literally rallied with a few people and we got the bar shut down for an entire month. And I think like stuff like that is what I care about, right? Like what I would love viewers to see is, right, part of this, part of it, I always think about is like people like, you know, LGBTQ people. And I'm like, yeah, but a lot of LGBTQ folks are racist. And I think it's important to have that conversation, right? Because people deem LGBTQ folks to be white, right? And that's it, right? So we get lumped into that. But I'm like, I'm a whole Black gay man, right? And that's very different than sometimes being white and queer. Just like, you know, the Black community love us dearly, but we also have pockets of homophobia, right? And pockets of transphobia. And so those are the things I would love people to have an honest conversation with and explore. And frankly, I'm just grateful to have a microphone that allows others to have that conversation. But that is really it, right? Those three communities and groups like women and girls, Black folks, LGBTQ folks, love us dearly.